Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What a pleasure to have all of you here joining us today for this very special session, I would say, for this year's 2017 Dalian Summer Davos. This is entitled Northern Lights, a Nordic Perspective on Innovation and Inclusive Growth. My name is Tian. I am going to be the moderator for this session. I'm coming from China Global Television Network. Before I introduce our guest today, I would love to say and share with you a phrase coming from China. We have a traditional saying for everything. We even have a traditional saying for describing the Nordic countries.
Okay.
As it goes, mountains are high and the emperors are far away. Well, it's not the one to describe the Nordic countries, but rather an old saying of saying we are in a world outside the world. That was the perceptions people have about the Nordic countries, far away, somewhere out there beautifully. But today, in a globalized world, things have changed. And the Nordic countries are extremely relevant today because they're showing us a great example of balancing economic growth with a welfare state. To answer more about questions related to that and many other issues fascinating us about the Nordic countries, I'm very honored to be joined here by two prime ministers coming from both Finland and Sweden. May I have the honor to introduce the Swedish Prime Minister, Stefan Löfven. Sir, good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And of course, great honor to welcome the Finnish Prime Minister, Juha Sipilä.
Exactly.
Mr. Prime Minister. I learned how to pronounce your name from the two wonderful women ambassadors you have here in China, so thank you for their service as well. I want to start by asking you exactly that question. The economic challenges we are facing these days, particularly for the European continent, has made many of us think about what to do with our social welfare system. And I wonder, with your unique circumstances back in your own country, how are you doing that balance? I want to go to you, Prime Minister Sipilä, because you have survived and thrived recently in the struggle about that. So why don't we hear from you first, Prime Minister?
Yeah, this is a good question. We know both in Sweden and Finland we have quite high taxation level. And we know that this will limit our growth also. But on the other hand, this is a key thing that we can keep everyone in the society and everyone can feel that they are a part of society. Also those who can't participate to the work and so on. And with high taxation we can keep our education level very high, which is also basis for the future growth. And it's a balancing all the time these two issues, high taxation and economical growth. And I think that in Nordic countries we have succeeded to do both at the same time.
But education and the payment have been two key issues
Yes.
that you are facing over the past few months. How do you think that balance can be well kept?
Education. Well, education.
There has been talk about the cut of educational budget. There has also been talk about, whether to increase the wages or actually even to lower the wages in order to keep the economy balanced.
Yes.
So it's very hard choices, I guess, for politicians these days.
Yeah, of course we have made some hard budget cuts also during the last 2 years because of the economical situation in public sector. But it's only a small part of what we have in our education budget in general. So I think that we can still keep our high education level in Finland, and we can now more focus on the certain areas we want to be number one in the world.
And what about for you, Prime Minister Löfven? Sweden also have your own version of challenge of balance between these two.
Yes, but they are connected very strongly, and exactly as the Finnish Prime Minister said, this is a part of the model. But of course, we also understand that it doesn't come for free. So labor, work, employment is crucial. That's why I'm focused on employment, full employment. I want us to have the lowest unemployment in Europe, because that is what pays for it. But at the same time, when you do have the right to education, healthcare, you can handle a period of unemployment, or when you get sick. Well, that also adds to this development, because people feel safe in that kind of society. They know if something happened, it doesn't affect me perhaps in a catastrophic way. We can handle that situation. So it's about being aware. I think this is the most important issue we need to discuss now. When we talk development, we rather tend to forgive about human beings. And this, all what we develop also in another country and other countries, the wealth that is created, the labor that is performed is by human beings. We will have robots, we will have machines, yes, but basically human beings.
Right.
And if you can I just say, if you include, the more human beings you include, the more you include all that individual human beings, the more you can also spend and invest, of course, in healthcare and those issues.
Beautifully said, Mr. Prime Minister, but you do want to keep your country's competitive edge. Let's just say, when other countries are employing and using robots, and you know AI, artificial intelligence, according to many data, is actually going to take away many of the jobs, particularly labor intensive and something related to it, there are going to be issues. And at that juncture, which is already approaching, not far away from us, what are some of the decisions you think are the principle you would like to rely on when you're making decisions?
Adaptation. We need to I mean, this is not the first time in history that we've heard
We're talking about fourth, right?
That new machines will take away the job. That will happen to the textile workers in Britain in the 1700s and 1600s, 1700s. They'll take our job away, so they smashed them. But I like to reverse that and say, I'm not afraid of the new technology. I'm afraid of the old technology, because the old technology that will definitely put us out of competition. So we need the new technology. But as the Prime Minister Li Keqiang said today, also what we need to make sure is that in that in that situation when you change, you need to bring people with you. Training, retraining. If you're out of job, unemployment insurance to make sure that you work, and then you do not resist that change, because it has happened before, it will happen in the future. Old jobs go away, but new jobs need to be. And you also need a very active industry policy. How do you support new industries, new companies, new service companies as well?
And especially in this change, we need engineers, and this is good.
Yes, but you need one or two welders as well.
Yeah, welders also, yes.
Well, change is the key word, isn't it? There's only one thing that's not changing, that is the change itself.
Exactly.
And therefore, we have to prepare for it. But it's the speed, Mr. Prime Minister, that we are preparing for the change, gonna catch up with the speed of the change itself. It sounds philosophical, but actually it's not. For example, both of you, have to deal with internal politics. Both of you have a coalition government. It's hard to deal with. We all understand that, what it takes for a politician to be the head of a coalition government. So pushing agenda, but at the same time looking at the high potential of the country in the future and the goal out there. That's also another balance, another inclusive growth we're talking about, Mr. Prime Minister.
Well, leading the coalition, it's very easy. It's a crisis in every second month only. so I don't.
Could have been worse.
We know it. Yeah. But anyway, I think that we in Nordic countries, we are well prepared for the change. We have discussed together if we can change our legislation together to prepare for the change, what is ahead of us in digitalization and automation and everything. And I think that those countries who are prepared and they can see some challenges, but at the same time there is a possibilities in the change. And I think that because we have a very high level of education, and if we focus on that area, we can be the winners also in this change.
And I believe you're right. It's an important point you're making, because change tends to happen faster and faster. Yeah. And that is why it's so important to have the inclusive growth. That's why it's so important to include people in this change, because if they're excluded in the decision making or whatever, they will be afraid.
But that will slow down the process also.
No, not at the end of the day. If we three are supposed to do something, and I directly say this is how it's done, and you're not with me, although I think that was a very fast decision for me, but if you're not with me, we're not there anyway.
Yeah.
But if I include you in the process, I tend to get you with me faster. That is my philosophy anyway.
Swedish are very good in diskutera.
Diskutera.
Yeah. And what about
too much?
That's true. You know, governance not only is about economy and social welfare, it is also about many other things. The world is changing, Europe is changing. You see crisis coming, and that having an impact on your country as well. The migrant crisis, for example, inside Europe. And there are border controls, there are new policy regarding the migrants. There are also different ways of how the society have to adapt. That's a tremendous amount of migrants, by the way, that both of your countries have managed to try to absorb for the international community. So I think there's also the governance innovation, and there's inclusive growth with that has to be addressed right here. Let's go to the Finnish Prime Minister first about that.
Yeah, about migration. I think that we have done now right things in the European Union. We have concentrated the root causes, and one of the root causes is climate change. And I think that we have to keep what we have promised in Paris climate agreement. And this is very important. And I am very glad that also China has behind the commitment we made together. And I think that we have to tackle these problems together. By the way, this is the theme of Finland 100 celebration, together. And these global challenges, migration, climate change, these are the issues we have to tackle together. And I think that these are the issues also which brings our nations together. And I think that we are on a right path in European Union in this respect. But on the other hand, we have also debate inside the European Union how to share the responsibility. I don't like the burden sharing wording. It's more sharing the responsibility.
But I want to push a little bit more about that. You have said that one is about climate change, the other is about the migrant crisis. On the climate change, for example, people wonder whether the Paris Accord is still going to be relevant without the participation of the United States, which is one of the biggest two emitters of the world. Mr. Prime Minister, from your country, Nordic perspective, how do you see that? What is the next stage of development for this to proceed?
I think that we have to keep our promises. This is number one. And now our focus should be in implementation. And put very challenging national targets. Like Finland and Sweden, our target together is to be carbon neutral in 2045. And this is our common target together. And I'm sure we will find ways and solutions for that. I think that we have to put more challenging targets to ourselves to solve this problem.
Want to showcase to the rest of the world how the Finnish are solving the problems. And I guess the same thing for Swedish as well. This is something close to your heart, the climate change issue. Mr. Prime Minister.
I'm very glad first that we've passed the time when the climate issue, saving the climate rather, and to work for a good environment, we've passed the time when we regard that as an obstacle. as something that we have to defeat. Now we've come into a thinking where this is the opportunity.
Yes.
Because in this lies so much new technologies. There are new jobs.
Absolutely.
New jobs as well. So I believe also that the United States, the administration, because I think they will find out this was not a good idea to get out of the Paris Agreement, because that's where the future is. And you can already see we have some 12, 13, I guess, at least states in the US that have claimed, no, we're going to implement the Paris Agreement. You have one of these major cities saying the same. We're going to implement, because they see that's the future. So we have to just keep on walking, and I believe also the rest of the US will come.
And will this issue, in a way, have an impact on the abilities of both sides, let's just say Nordic countries as a whole or individually, to work with the United States, let's just say, for the long term? Because there are certain things you have to work together in order to step by step try to achieve something. But if there's an absence of someone or some country, will that kind of continuity of cooperation, even in other fields, be impacted as a result? I'm just curious, Mr. Prime Minister.
We have a good relation with the American administration. That's for example, also in regarding defense and those kind of difficult issues. We believe it's important for us as a country, of course, but also for the EU to have a good transatlantic link. So that is something we're working with constantly. It's crucial for us. So although the Paris Agreement issue now is debated, on other issues, sectors, we do cooperate, and we keep on working with that.
Talking about the EU, Mr. Prime Minister, there have been a lot of discussion about what the EU should be about. We all know there's something called Brexit, and we also know that there has to be some common purposes for the future to be developed. But what is it about, and what is going to be the future, let's just say, transatlantic relationship? We heard the Prime Minister, the German Chancellor talking about, more opportunities for the Europeans themselves to be independent and depend on their own. We also heard from others different ideas. What about Nordic countries? What are your thoughts?
Well, I can say what our Finnish thoughts, and Stefan.
Sure.
You can say the Swedish as well.
Yes, we almost agree in everything. By the way,
should I emphasize on the almost, or should I emphasize on everything?
Yeah, I have to explain it now, because there is only two things we disagree. One is ice hockey, who is the best team in the world, and the second thing is Santa Claus. And I know that the homeland of Santa Claus is Finland, and he is saying something else. Yeah, but what is the future of European Union?
Yes.
I think that that unity of the European Union it's now going to the right direction because of the Brexit, and we have very good vision we made in Rome this year, and based on that vision we will build a new European Union, and there will be more cooperation, more integrations. One special issue is defense cooperation, which we decided last week to start and continue on that respect. In trade, of course, we have some challenges on that field in the globe, but at the same time we can see possibilities to increase trade between China and European Union, to increase trade in South America and so on. Our relationship between US and European Union and our countries, I think that it's still good. There is nothing to worry about. But of course we have now challenges, and the special challenge is this climate change, which is a very personal thing for me also, and Finnish people.
I know you have a special interest in developing wind gas, as I just heard. Wood gas, that's right,
yeah,
the wood gas, very interesting. You had even developed that in your backyard.
Yeah.
We're going to hear maybe some of stories in the future, but let me go to you. Prime Minister Löfven, what about that? The future for Europe, what do you think are the choices? And part of the European Union, have that bring really more benefits to Sweden? Or the other way around, because there have been a lot of discussion about Nordic countries only obeying the rules but not necessarily be able to cash out a lot from the European Union's policies. Prime Minister.
Starting with that, there's no question we've gained from being a member of the European Union. There's no question about it. Export in Sweden equals to 50%, 50, of our GDP export. And the vast majority of that export is to the European Union, to Europe. So there's no question that we have profited from this membership. And also it's important to strengthen the continent as a whole. So when we look at the future, when we started the discussion in Bratislava, just after the Brexit referendum, we pointed out a number of issues where we needed to be better. We said, this is not the time to discuss a new treaty. That's not the time. Now it's time to deliver. One is employment. Make sure that people actually have a job, not least youth, because youth unemployment is a ticking bomb. And we have, in some countries, we have 25, 30% youth unemployment. That is dangerous. So let's focus on employment, particularly youth unemployment. Let's focus on security. How can we cooperate in terms of countering terrorism, for example, but also organized crime and the defense cooperation that the Prime Minister just mentioned. But let's also focus on the social issue, because there again, I think we've lost that social dimension, the human dimension of all this. This is not an organization, a cooperation primarily just for capital or goods or companies. Yes, that's good. But the focus needs to be, how do we improve people's lives? And that is not really clear for people in general. So that is a word that we have. Now we are developing what we call a social pillar. How can we develop that perspective together with respect, at the same time that we're different countries with different decision making? But we need to take a path that shows clearly it's a social dimension built into this. And this November, I've invited my colleagues, and a lot of them will attend a social summit in Gothenburg, in Sweden, just to address that issue in itself, to show people we are doing this to improve your daily lives.
You have to be able to handle so many things at the same time. That's the job of a prime minister, particularly at the point of dramatic changes. And you have to look for options all the time, whether it's internal politics, it's economic issues, or whether it's geopolitical issues. And both of you are here and met with the Chinese president, and also possibly later with the Chinese premier in person as well. So how does that work? What kinds of option is China to you, both politics, business, and geopolitical wise? I want to go to you first this time, Mr. Prime Minister.
China is, of course, very important. It's a huge country, a huge economy, important global player. And with the same, let's take the climate issue again. As the Prime Minister just pointed out, China has really committed to the Paris Agreement. So there's a like-minded partner that we want to cooperate with, knowing that we will both do something good for the climate as well as creating new jobs. This is the future. So. Of course, China is very important, and that's why we both bilaterally, but also as within the Nordic cooperation, we also underline the importance of having a Nordic-Chinese relation as well as we have bilateral. So it goes without saying, China is very important, yes.
And of course, Sweden this year is hosting, or rather the rotating presidency of the Arctic Council. Of course, that's also another area to work on together. Having said that, what about for Finland? I heard you talk about the winter sports with the Chinese president.
Yes, that was one
so
of
did we, so we are competing.
We are competing again, yeah. We have a very good relationship with China, diplomatic relations since 65 years now, and of course we have a very high level trade. I think that China is number 5 or 4 in our trade. We discussed a lot about winter sports.
Because China is hosting the Winter Olympics in the near future.
Yes, congratulations about that. It will be a big happening. And I think that we can cooperate on that field very much. And on other hand, this climate change challenge, it brings us a lot of things we can do together and cooperation in clean tech, in new energy, renewable energy, and so on. So there's so many areas we can cooperate with a high technological level we have in Finland in these areas, clean tech, ICT, and building, construction, energy efficiency, and so on.
Right. Talking about clean energy, there are lights in your eyes, Mr. Prime Minister, because as we mentioned, there is a very personal story relating to developing the wood gas in your backyard.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Are you still doing that?
No, I'm now living more in our capital, not in north so much anymore. But anyway, I am loading my electrical car by solar panels now.
Terrific.
And I had a wood gas car also. I built it.
How long can it run?
40,000 kilometers, and for 10 years it's a very good car.
Impressive.
But it's quite a workload. You have to show your good pieces, and it's not an easy car.
I wonder whether that is another form of winter sports.
Yeah, that's a part of my exercise.
Yeah, I mean, we are having a terrific conversation with the two prime ministers. Time is running out, but I do want to ask a final question. I mean, both of you, look at you. You're coming from very different background. One is coming from the extinguished business leader background. Another one is an outstanding trade unionist. Mm-hmm. Very different. But you're all in politics at a time of dramatic change. Mm-hmm. Everywhere, inside the country, out there as well. What does it take, do you think, from the bottom of your heart, really, prime ministers, the qualities of a politician these days to make sure it is not only going to be about the possibility to govern, but also really for the long-term good of the country and being part of the world? It's a very general question, but I think all of you, both of you, have some thoughts about that. Yeah. Which one want to go first? Let the competition begin.
Yeah, I think that both of us, we had an other life also, and we can come back to the other life if we want. And from the bottom of my heart, and I know that Stefan is in same opinion, that we do our work for our countries and for globe, and we do everything what is needed for our people and for these global challenges like climate change. And this is the only reason, at least for me, this is the only reason be in politics. If I can't reach my targets, then I will come back to my business and wood gas car. And
I'm sure you're going to be able to do both. Thank you. What about Prime Minister Löfven?
If I can't fulfill mine, perhaps I can get a job in Finland.
Talking about community here. Yeah. Yeah. What about the qualities?
No, of course you need a very deep interest in society and how to develop it. It's all about improving. And I've been interested in politics since this size, actually. Seriously. And of course, being when you are a trade union leader, you of course work with society as a whole because you're a part of society. You have to be determined. You have to be focused. You have to like processing things, discussing with others. But then you also have to be prepared when decision-making time is up. You have to take that decision. And if the government is not assembled, well, you have to do it yourself. And there's no one to look for. You have to take that decision yourself and take responsibility for that. So there's different aspects of this, but I think we're very fortunate to have been given this possibility to serve your country as a prime minister. It's absolutely outstanding.
Fascinating, fascinating. Consulting, but at the same time be decisive.
Right.
Always look up to the nature.
Yeah.
Because that's where our future lies.
Yes, sure it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think the two prime ministers showcase both their communication skills and their wonderful thoughts about governance. Shall we put our hands together to express our appreciation for both of them? Prime Minister Sipilä and Prime Minister Löfven, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.